Good evening and welcome to On the Spot Show. My name is Patrick Amar. Let me first give you a preamble. The Uganda Heart Institute recently carried out a trailblazing, highly specialized open heart surgery known as coronary heart bypass grafting surgery. This was the first ever operation conducted by Ugandan doctors. It is on the record that Uganda has extremely good doctors, many of whom have migrated to more developed countries for better remuneration. However, could this success be a watershed moment to revive the ailing health sector, improve our hospital facilities, and pay our doctors better? So tonight on the spot, I have a panel of experts from the Uganda Heart Institute, who include Tom Mwambu, who is the head adult cardiac surgery, Dr. William Manyilira, a cardiac consultant, and Dr. Charles Rugero, a cardiologist. But before I even bring you those three gentlemen, let me take you back to that trailblazing, highly specialized open heart surgery known as coronary heart bypass grafting that took place a few days ago.
This team of Ugandan doctors conducted a heart surgery on this 45-year-old patient for
trying to use these results to show the nation that we only want tools. The budget we receive supports up to about 30% of our output.
Dr. Omagino said the Heart Institute, the only facility in the country, is still underutilized. The institute currently carries out 500 heart surgeries instead of the 1,000 that it was meant to handle.
Some, like the rheumatic heart disease, they already so the valve surgery we are having to foot the bill. Many of the children thrown to us, the families may not be able.
Treatment of this kind of heart defect can cost up to 100 million shillings abroad. Most patients in Uganda are sent to India, where the cost is cheaper at about 72 million shillings. That cost would reduce to about 28 million shillings if it were carried out at the Uganda Heart Institute.
Even the money that has been going for referrals abroad, that money should be brought here. And for us, we support these programs.
Dr. Omagino says the government should prioritize the health sector in order to avoid brain drain and also build capacity for the already established workforce and expertise.
For us, we are challenging government. Give us the resources and you demand for the outputs.
Walter Mwesije, NTV.
Thank you, Walter, for having refreshed our mind on what really happened in Melago a few days ago. And tonight, I should say, I have the three gentlemen who are part of the group I can call those with gifted hands. I remember, if you remember that story in the United States of a cardiologist who also wanted to be head of state. And he, because of his fine work, and there was a movie called Gifted Hands. The gifted hands and the gifted minds are right here, and the spotlight is on them. I have Dr. Tom Mwambu. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tom Mwambu.
Thank you.
I have Dr. William Manyilira. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
And I have Dr. Charles Lugero, who's a cardiologist. Welcome to the show. Thanks. I understand the three of you did this groundbreaking or trailblazing, highly skilled and highly specialized kind of operation. But if you can take us through, why did it take us so long for us to do, for you to be able to do what you did a few days ago? Dr. William.
Yes. Good evening, viewers. Thank you, Mr. Kamara. By the way, for your information, we did this kind of surgery 2 years ago.
Okay.
But it did not involve grafting 3 vessels. It involved grafting 2 vessels of the heart. The difference between the one we did 2 years ago and a few days ago, the one we did a few days ago, is because we did 3 vessels. The first one we did, we were encumbered by the absence of the prerequisite equipment. We didn't have the best equipment that time, but we did our best. It was actually headed by Dr. Mwambu. I wasn't around that time, and they did a great job, assisted by some visiting professor from South Africa. This time around, we've got the most modern equipment you can think of.
We have the most modern equipment you can think of.
Yes, so that's why we're able to embark on. Of course, hallelujah. Okay. So that's why we're able to embark on doing a triple bypass. And that is actually the pinnacle of coronary artery bypass grafting all over the world. If you can do 3 vessels on the heart, within that time given. I think we've advanced to that level.
When
So probably Dr. Mambo can add.
Yes, Dr. Mambo, because when you talk about grafting, for the people in the village, we are used about grafting our own trees and you know, a local mango with an exotic mango, and you get something else. A kind of grafting, do you get a tissue and you put them together, and then the same tissue go into the same heart?
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very Patrick, and thank you very much, viewers. When we talk about grafting, you are very right. We get one tissue and join it to another tissue in a place that it usually isn't. So in this case, we have got blood vessels on the heart, which supply the muscle of the heart, but which are blocked and are not working, just like you can have a blocked pipe or a traffic jam on the road. So the graft we are using is another blood vessel we've removed from another part of the body, and we bypass
the blocked source.
The blocked source. So the art of attaching it back to the heart and getting blood by connecting this other blood vessel to another source, that is called grafting. So we are using a blood vessel from another part of the body to bypass a block.
So in simple terms, this is some kind of a biological engineering. Dr. Lugero.
Of course, thank you, viewers. Thank you, Patrick, for this opportunity for us to talk about heart diseases. The kind of art that Dr. Mambo has explained, it requires a lot of, I would imagine it requires the same science like one would talk about in engineering, because it involves transplanting one tissue from one place where it is not usual is, and you take it to a place where you want it to do some work, something that is close to what you want. So, well, call it some level of engineering, medical engineering of sorts.
So take us through the kind of challenge the patient was giving, but not necessarily the kind of that particular patient, but in this kind of situation, this challenge you face, and how did you reach the level, taking a decision that now we can do it right here in Uganda? Because I'm sure you went in your meeting, all of you guys sat together, and maybe some agreed and some disagreed with you, but maybe you took a view, say, you know what, let him face the knife, and we're the people to do it. So back to the scene kind of scenario.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick. Yeah, what you're talking about is exactly what transpired.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened, William already told you that last year we had a take-on. We took on a case. It was a two-vessel disease. It was a young man. We had called in a South African professor. Actually, he had been invited by government to try and assess the Heart Institute for its capacity to perform coronary bypass surgery. But when he came in, at that material time, we had a young man who was really sick and who really needed a bypass and could not afford to go abroad. So this South African professor said, he looked at us and said, you people, I can see you have skill. I can see you have the basic requirements. Why don't you, with my presence, go ahead and do the surgery? I'll give you the backup. So we went ahead and did the surgery. It was successful, but I must say, we went through a lot of hardships in getting that patient to the success he was. So we said, no, we need to get the right things in. And we got the right equipment in with support from the government. Now, this coincided also with Williams coming back from his training. So William said, I want to keep my skill going. And we said, fine, we have more skill around, we have got all the equipment in, why can't we do the surgery? And so we agreed that if we have everything, why can't we do it? So even if it's a triple bypass, which as he said is the pinnacle, is the most challenging, that means you're bypassing all the key vessels on the heart, we said we will go for it. And we went for it.
Yes, Dr. William, you had something to...
Yes, Mr. Kamara, having said that, we had equipment available, the human resources now well trained. So the next stage, of our program, of coronary artery bypass, was now to sit together as a group. We call it the heart team.
The heart team?
The heart team is composed of the cardiac surgeons, composed of the cardiologists, the anesthesiologists, the the Basilisa,
Yes.
and then the ICU care specialists, critical care, the nurses and the doctors. So we see together, we've created a very strong heart team, sort of a committee. We meet every Friday and we discuss all the patients before we subject them to any invasive procedure. So this particular patient, like most patients before, because we've done valves, by the way, even including double valves. So we had to discuss, we brainstormed, we had arguments.
You have some kind of a
So
seminar
like
on the workshop and brainstorming.
yeah, every
and I can
Friday,
imagine
2
some
hours.
doctors are saying, we're not up to this, we're not yet there yet.
Absolutely.
And then maybe it dawns on you to say, no, it's
Yeah.
a goal.
Yeah, but that's how your team should be. You cannot all agree. But at the end of the day, the majority took the day. We said we should go ahead and operate, and it went successfully.
I can imagine, Dr. Mwambu, perhaps you had to take a decision to say, gentlemen, we have listened to the views, but the patient is going to go under an operation, triple bypass here in Uganda. Was it not a very big decision to take? Because it's not going to be, you are first with your team, a triple bypass, using a machine that was new, top of the range, but it is had just come into the country.
Yes, it is a big decision, but the beauty about it is that we discussed as a team. We have got various professionals who are taking part in different areas of diagnosis and care. When the patient comes in, we have what we call the cardiologists, who first review the patient and make the diagnosis. And even furthermore, we have what we call interventional cardiologists. Those are the ones who
That's
go
the team
in,
of Dr. Charles Lugero.
Charles
right?
Lugero and his team.
Yeah.
So within that team, there is a team called also interventional cardiologists, which he is among, and they go in to put the dyes through the blood vessels and
Wait a
locate
minute, Dr.
Dr.
Lugero, you're a cardiologist, you're putting dyes into whatever. What does that mean exactly? What do you do at that? Because it looks like you are the first point of front line of sorts before they even come.
So we are always at the front line.
You're on the front line.
And we always feed our surgeons.
Like gatekeepers.
So we are the gatekeepers.
You're the gatekeepers.
So once a patient has been diagnosed with a heart attack, I think we have an opportunity to explain what it is.
Yes, we shall.
What happens, we go through a cocktail of investigations, and once we've made that confirmation, the levels of management involve 1, medications, 2, that level of passing wires, and 3...
Wait a minute. Level of passing wires. Wires
yes.
where?
So the process of passing wires, we are looking at the heart.
Are you talking about the wires like I know them?
No, exactly. Just imagine the simple wires as you look at
So
them.
there's some kind of wiring into the heart.
Exactly. So what happens, the heart you have has vessels. You know, it contains blood, but it does not feed on that blood directly. It has some blood vessels that also pick that blood and feed into the heart muscle. So what happens is we have connection through a small car injection we make here. You pass that wire through your groin. That wire is advanced into the heart. While you are doing this, you are able to see directly there is a screen, because that screen is guiding you where you are going. And when you get into the heart, you are able to inject some dye. The essence of injecting this dye is to help you to see where you are. And you inject into those vessels, and where there is blockage, you are actually able to see directly that the blockage is here.
Because of the dye.
Exactly. Now, once you do that, sometimes once you get a heart attack, you get a blockage that is not very complicated, and we are able to unblock it at that point in time, using merely the same process of passing wires. So we can do that, and if we are successful using that method, that ends, and that will be your final treatment. But sometimes you do that, you go in and find that many times there are so many blood vessels that are blocked, or the blockage is so complex that you cannot pass a wire to negotiate through. Then we say, you know what?
You bypass.
We need to bypass this blockage because it's so complicated.
This is why it is called a bypass.
Exactly. So
and the top notch is, the top of the range is triple bypass.
Exactly.
Okay, that means you have an army of people who all of them must have precision that you require.
Yeah.
and to be on standby at all time with the skill and experience and on the ready. But you have just come from a training. You guys are highly trained and highly specialized. I also believe they are. But you have not done this together, some kind of a dry run. You can't do a dry run because you have a human being. So how do you reach a level, say, now we are ready? Because you have not worked with this team. It is, I suppose, a group of about 20, 30, or 50 people working with one heart. Dr. Manila.
Mr. Kamara, interestingly, cardiac surgery, its practice and the protocols that we've got to follow are universal. So if I've trained in South Africa like I did, trained where I trained in India and Japan, the practice is more or less the same. The differences are really basic. I mean, they're minor. That can be ironed out. With the first few meetings, I will tell my senior here, Dr. Mwambu, that this is how I would want to approach this. But he knows there are variations and he accepts it. So it's not so controversial. We easily agree on most of the things.
You
and that's how
were quoted in the Daily Monitor, Dr. Manyira, that's this operation, this kind of operation in Uganda could cost about 18 million. And then that if you compare that to such a same operation in South Africa, it could cost about 300 million. Why is our treatment, and I'm not complaining, why is our treatment cheap? Is it cheap?
No, definitely, they're quite a number of factors.
Even 18 is not cheap anyway.
No, it's actually not cheap. If you ask me to pull out 18 million, I think I'll struggle. So it's not cheap. But indeed, it's cheap for the type of surgery that we do. In South Africa, it's very expensive for many reasons. Their cost of living is high. But the 300 that I think I quoted is for the private, the high-end clinics. Okay, the private one. If you go to government, public hospital in South Africa, it's about 100, 120 million. But still, that is over 6 times higher than ours. Our cost is lower because government subsidizes it. We're paid a salary. It's not part of that. The infrastructure is in place. That's not included. It's factored into the cost. So it's basically the cost of the consumables, the valve, for example, the sutures we use,
the flight, the hotel,
the tubes we use. That is all. That is factored into that cost. Okay. But it will be a lot higher if you took into account our salaries, and other infrastructure in the place. It's definitely much higher than that.
And chances are also high that if somebody undergoes a triple bypass operation in South Africa, he could also be worked on by a Ugandan expatriate doctor.
Definitely, we have them there. That's true.
So now, I'm sure at one point we shall be able to get the testimony of the patient, because I'm told he was even able to speak for about a minute immediately after that operation. I think my producer will work on that. But
he's actually at home now.
Yeah, okay. But somebody would want to know, would want to avoid, having your arteries blocked. What blocks them? Because I can imagine, I can equate it to you're washing your sink after many years, washing in your sink, and the sink gets blocked. All you do is you remove it, maybe you call a plumber, that's it. Because that's the image I just want to paint. But I know what causes the sink to block, the blockage there. But what is blocking the arteries of my heart?
It's exactly similar.
Are you serious?
So
I'm putting in some kind of fats?
Plumbers in one way.
You're like a plumber?
Because we are also unblocking vessels. But what happens actually, commonly, is that we have some fat, we call it plaques, that slowly over time accumulate within the blood vessels. And depending on where they are, they will give you, symptoms, okay, resulting from the blockage. So when they are on the heart and they block the blood vessel on the heart, then they will give you the symptoms that our patient came with. They'll give you chest pain. They'll give you, in summary, what would be a heart attack, and your muscle of the heart can easily die off, and then probably you can collapse or faint. But before that happens, you may present with pain, and then you come to our clinic and you may end up with a bypass of that block.
So is this problem more of a lifestyle kind of problem, because I become what I am because of what I'm eating and that causes me trouble, or lack of exercise, or maybe you can say it's genetic, or as I advance in age, like I am advancing, maybe somebody can become a candidate. Dr. Lugero.
So it is a host of factors. Right as you put it, it involves genetic predisposition, lifestyle, and some medical conditions. So in terms of genetics, one is age. So for age, we talk about 45 for ladies and above 55 for men. In terms of sex, the males are more predisposed to coronary artery disease.
And why is that?
It is again
My stress levels?
It is again genetic, but of course sometimes
contributes, absolutely.
But of course our level of stress certainly is different. The other risk factor is smoking, which is very critical. The other one is if you've had, of course, which comes back to genetics, if you've had a family history of someone who has died suddenly, especially at a younger age. The other one is lifestyle, of course, lack of exercise, sedentary lifestyle, obesity. If you if you see someone who is certainly overweight, the higher you go in terms of weight, the more the risk. The other thing is, of course, cholesterol, and we talk about bad and good cholesterol. So we always check out for those bad cholesterol, and they should be checked.
So the bad cholesterol, William, what brings bad cholesterol? And can't I use local natural remedies to use good cholesterol to fight bad cholesterol? Because if I can again use an example, if my sink is blocked, then I'm going to use some kind of soap or whatever, and that soap is going to be some kind of good cholesterol to remove. But how do I clean my veins using good cholesterol so that they don't cause blockage? I don't have to get a wire in my heart.
No, you don't. You don't need to reach there. But to make that sound simple is that you need to eat well. Our traditional foods we used to eat, all our grannies used to eat, were actually the best. They were anti the bad cholesterol or anti-bad cholesterol. So if we can go back to that, I think many of these problems will be sorted out. But if you've got them, probably
you can have good cholesterol. If we take on the line of good cholesterol, you know fish.
Yes.
Fish has oils, fish oils. They have antioxidants. They will help in the metabolism and breakdown of this other bad cholesterol. And you can also prevent, as William has put it, that we can prevent getting bad cholesterol into us by choosing our diets. If you go for the oils, because the oils tend to improve, the taste of our foods, and people would like always to add them in. But the heavier those oils are, the higher the chance that they have high cholesterol. The lighter the oils, the less cholesterol. So if we compare olive oil, which when you pour, appears like you're pouring water, vis-a-vis our muzigo and maybe these other margarines, which are very heavy. In that range, you tend, as you go heavier, you get more cholesterol.
Which are usually solid at room temperature.
Okay,
Yes.
Dr. Mwambu, Dr. Manyirira, and Dr. Lugero, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be able to play that testimony of the patient that underwent a triple heart bypass surgery here in Kampala. We shall be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and we are talking about the recently carried out trail-blazing, highly specialized open heart surgery known as coronary artery bypass grafting surgery that took place at Milago National Referral Hospital. And I have the gentlemen have also decided to call the men with gifted hands that were able to save a patient, and then he was able even to walk and talk. But before I can even let them speak again in this segment, let me go to that patient, because he gave a testimony immediately after or after the operation. And this is him talking to journalists.
This is such a big issue because it was the missing link to fill the box. And now, with it, the technical capacity can handle up to 95%. The other 5% is for highly complicated problems, which may need things like heart transplant. We are not ready for that. Not that people don't know, but technically, we are not ready for what? For that.
He's doing quite well, and as I speak, he's fit to go to the main ward. He's passed the level of intensive care. He's able to move around, he's able to talk, he's able to do his daily activities. So he's ready to go to the ward.
Naye ekyo tukyebaliza Mukama kubeera nga asobola okubeera bw'atyo, kubanze ku Mande nali simanyi nti anaddamu okutambula bw'atyo nga bw'atambudde era nga yemumulabye n'ebigambo ebimuvuddemu.
Welcome back. So you have seen the patient there, you have seen the doctors, you have seen the relatives having hope that he got another chance to live again, courtesy of the Ugandan doctors and the equipment or the machines that we have and the environment that has been created so that life can be extended a little more. With God's grace, he is now out of danger. But how can we avoid a hemorrhage of funds that goes to India, to South Africa, to the US? And I can imagine not everybody goes to such hospitals, because those who will go are the affluent Ugandans, perhaps people in position of power. Because I can understand, I hear about 10 billion Ugandan shillings is spent on about 140 patients a year. How can we cut that, Dr. Manira?
From a medical doctor point of view, I think, I would like to request our fellow Ugandans that trust your fellow Ugandans, that we can offer a service that is at the same level as the service offered in other developed countries, especially at the UHI as I speak now. We were able to offer that. So the problem, Mr. Kamara, in Uganda has been that our population, especially the affluent, believe that they cannot get that kind of service. So they would rather fly and go out. But that's not true. When you go to Kenya here in South Africa, you find many Ugandans who are actually offering this service as super specialists. But probably Dr. Mwamba and Lugero
Dr. Mwamba, I've heard of a story of a Ugandan with high name recognition who could not be worked on in Mulago because he thought maybe Mulago would not save him. So they had to fly him to South Africa. And then South Africa told him that you have to wait because our consultant is currently out of the country. But when he comes, he'll be able to work on you. And guess what? When the consultant came, it was a Semogere or a Turiashingora or Dr. Kello working on him in a hospital in Pretoria. Is that really, could that have been a true story?
Yes, these scenarios have happened. They have happened even in London, where we had a patient who required a neurosurgical intervention. And when he reached UK, they told him, yes, our surgeon will be arriving, and the surgeon who arrived was a Ugandan. So it happens, and the biggest challenge we have here is, I think, it's basically ambience. The ambience of our hospitals is still lacking. Yeah. And the impression that somebody gets into some of our hospitals, especially the public hospitals, when you walk in like this and you look at the hospital, you even may get more sick. And so some people will not believe that out of these structures, you can get healing.
But it's also possible that you can contract more diseases in a hospital in the Ugandan setting. And I'm saying this because I have been, as a journalist, seeing hospitals before the renovation of hospitals, the major hospitals in Uganda. I'm talking about hospitals like Anaka, like Metiana, like Kriandongo, like Kawolo here. At one point, like Mubende, I saw, a charcoal stove being used at the entrance of the operating theater to sterilize, equipment, because what you call the autoclaving machines were long dead.
Boiling.
Yeah.
So that is true. That is true. We have hospitals which are in that state, and of course we feel very sorry that they can go down to that state. But at the Heart Institute, where we performed our surgery, we're doing our best to make sure that we operate at an international standard, and whatever we do must be at the same level. Yes, our ambience may not be exactly there as yet. It's currently interfered with by the construction that is going on, the upgrading of Mulago Specialized Hospital. But we are hopeful that within the near future, when Mulago Specialized Hospital is completed, where the Heart Institute is also housed, we are going to have a fantastic kind of ambience. But I would like to assure the public that we have the best services. We are able to do more than 85% of our surgeries at the Heart Institute. The challenge, of course, right now we are facing is space. And of course, we still have the challenge of having adequate financial support to avail the resources. But if patients could come to us then we can use the resources within this country. Instead of carrying these funds outside, we can use that very resource to build our own capacity, expand the availability of our services, even in this country.
You talked about an earlier case that you worked on, which was not a triple bypass heart surgery, but something else.
Double bypass.
Double bypass. But that involved a young man. And I'm wondering, because of some of the causes you told me, it could be, you know, dietary related, maybe genetic or even age. How does a young man in Uganda, and perhaps not even indulging that much because we're not a very poor, rich nation, get to a level of having his heart arteries blocked?
Like I told you, that it is, involves a host of factors. And one of the most important, I told you, is the issue of genetics. So to someone who is already genetically predisposed, probably you need a very, one small trigger for you to, develop the disease. So we give you a list of factors, risk factors, but you do not need to have all of them at the same time for you to develop the condition. So many times, at a younger age, you probably could be a smoker, you could probably be, overweight, you could be diabetic, you could be hypertensive, you could have high cholesterol, you could be inactive. So for some reason, there are some factors, and sometimes you may not have any of those, but the genetics plays a role.
Okay.
Of course, there are some scenarios where we actually have some coronary blood flow impeded in the absence of those risk factors, but probably that is not something that I would want,
Is it also so true that when a human is being formed in a body or in the womb of the mother, the first thing to form is a heart? Because I remember when my child was about to be born and I took the mother for checkup, and then the machine was showing something pumping, and the doctor is telling me, that's the heart. I'm like, okay, only the heart? Said, yes, that's the heart. Is it true we start forming from the heart? Dr. Manyuru.
Not absolutely true, but the heart is one of the organs that form very early. In the first 3 weeks or so,
in a
we
few
already
weeks
have
the
the
heart
fuel.
doesn't.
Yeah, it's already formed. But you've got to get the housing in place. You can't just have the heart.
Because
right
it's the heart that does it's the heart that does the beating.
Yeah, so it has to be within. So you have the housing. I won't use the technical word. Then you have the heart developing from within. Yes, but can I just go back to what Dr. Mwam said about the ambience at Uganda Heart Institute? Like he said, we're undergoing renovation now. When you're entering Uganda Heart Institute, you won't believe that your heart can be opened up in that kind of environment because of construction around. But the moment you step into the ICU, into the theater, you won't
like
believe
anywhere
it. It's
in the
anywhere
world.
else in the world. And that's the point I'm
Even
trying
better.
to drive home. That we've got one of the best catheterization laboratories where he works, comparable to the best in South Africa, comparable to the best in Europe. It's even not in Kenya at the moment.
It may
Kenya
look,
does not have
so what
it.
you're telling us that outside may look like a Melago in Kampala, but inside it's John Hopkins.
So don't charge the
US.
book by its cover.
Yes.
And that's the problem we've got in Uganda. We charge the book by its cover. Let's trust that we can do the thing. Let's believe in ourselves.
I've
Okay,
seen Ugandans trying to change behavior, because you have told us, and other people have kept telling us that our lifestyle needs to change if we are to avoid lifestyle-related kind of diseases. And I see Ugandans, especially in Kampala, and again the affluent community, running in the evening, running in the morning, which is a good thing. But I've also seen quite a big number who are now going into the health clubs, especially the sauna and the steam. I just want to ask, is it helpful? Because now everybody now is going to the steam. Even as we speak now, they should be there.
Yes.
Or maybe somebody's wasting time. Or I also go there. Sometimes they could be wasting my time.
The jogging that we see
Yes.
is very helpful because it really exercises you. It increases your body's demand, and so you burn out excess energy. And excess energy in your body is stored as fat. To a small extent, it is stored as sugars in the liver, but the greatest majority of it from which we recall excess energy is fat. So when you jog, you actually burn out a lot of fat, and in the process of burning out that fat, you're also burning out extra fat within your blood. So you are lowering the fat levels within you, and so you're reducing the risks of getting coronary artery disease. Now, when you go into the gym, you're doing also, I would say more, sometimes they are what we call static exercises. When you jog, you're doing real dynamic. But in the gym, you have both static and dynamic exercises. But they both exercise you, they both burn you out, and so you get rid of some fat. Now, when you go into the sauna, the problem with the sauna is that whereas people think that the sauna helps you to melt away some fat, I'm sorry, you don't really melt away much fat. You actually get dehydrated.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why people are drinking water all the time.
And when they come out, they are drinking a lot of water, they're feeling so hungry, and they go back and eat a huge plate of chips and pork, and they say, I've been from the sauna. I'm trying to cut my weight. But really, you're not doing much. If you really want to do much, get into the gym, go jogging, go swimming, go walking. Those are better exercises.
So in other words, the message is that Ugandans should not live a sedentary kind of lifestyle. They should at least walk. They should also, whether it means walking around your home or around your community.
Park your car a kilometer away from your office and walk to your office.
Don't use the lifts in the office. If
Walk
you're going up just 3 or 4 stairs, walk them up. If you're going 8 stairs, you take a lift to the 4 stairs, 4 floors up, and walk the remaining 4.
I have a brother who just retired from work and recently was at the postal building and is working at the 10th floor as a commissioner. He would always walk up to, yet was always in his mid-50s, but he would always walk.
Yeah, it trains the heart. It trains the heart.
When everybody else will come, the young people get into the lift, the old man gets into the... So we need that kind of discipline.
Definitely. It's about discipline.
So that's engineering. We can ask the Ministry of Works, we can ask government to put a policy to say that, when you put, storage buildings where there are going to be lifts, then the lift should stop every 2nd floor. So this lift will stop on floor 1, floor 3, that kind of thing, so that you are forced. And if you are, therefore, if you're on floor 1, the lift that will the next lift stops on floor 3. There will be no lift to take you from floor 1 to floor 2. So you're forced to walk.
But you see,
this is
Dr.
all engineering.
Lugero, one day when you come and you have a problem, that's when you need it to work, and you have created a problem for yourself. You could be having a strain somewhere, and maybe you're feeling written well. So
I think the bottom line is just
just needs to be
discipline.
discipline in your head.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Because you've talked about things to do with stress. Are you suggesting that at a molecular level, a thought can turn into matter that is dangerous? Like I've had an issue, and then that can cause my blockage of the artery from a mere thought to something tangible?
Absolutely, Mr. Kamara. It's a cascade of events that happen from your depression to deposition of that cholesterol in your vessel. There are a lot of things that happen. When you're stressed up, you release what they call stress hormones. Okay? They are like the fight and flight hormone. And all those tend to build up. No? They mobilize sugar from your body because you've got to run, for example. So you're on tension all the time. No? You need that energy. So you have hormones like cortisol. Those are not very good hormones if they're in high levels. They're very good when they're in moderate levels, normal levels. But if you have that, through a long cascade of processes, you end up with fat deposits. That's how I can put in a layman's language. So just try to avoid stress. Mingle with friends. Socialize. I think that's the most important thing. That's why people in the Western world are more stressed than we are in the developing countries. Because we've got relatives. We have these big families. I'm at home, I can have a chat with as many as 10 people, in as short as 1 hour. Whereas in the developed countries, I can tell you, even at your place of work, you might be alone, unless if you are doing this kind of work like we do.
Which reminds me to an example. I had a friend of mine, a Jewish broadcast professor from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, who came here, and we walked around Kampala, and then we were meeting all these border stages, and then she could see border boys talking amongst themselves, and they're discussing, and you tell me, Patrick, see, they're happy, they're talking. I'm like, what do you mean? But they're supposed to talk. No, you see, it is so beautiful. I did not understand until at one point I realized that I said, okay, in the Western world, everybody just goes into their
business,
gets into their mind, and nobody's talking to the other. So talking amongst ourselves and sharing and laughing is a good thing that can maybe add another year on our lives.
It releases your stress.
There's actually a study, there are actually studies that show that, especially in the Western world, the commonest cause of death, of course not directly, but through the process of
among other factors,
it's actually low levels of social interaction, and below that, it's not having many friends. Doing exercises and stopping smoking and treating diabetes and treating high blood pressure is way down on the list. Probably not in our country, but that's why it is in the developed countries.
If you go to the United States today, they well, about 8 years ago, when I had a chance to go there, they had a problem of an obesity problem. People were getting obese. But what I've realized in the United States, or even other developed countries, it's the rich who are obese. I mean, it's the poor who are obese.
Yes.
And
Because
in Uganda, it's the rich who are obese.
The reason that developed countries that the poor can afford the junk, which is cheap actually, junk food. Like now, of course, KFC here is damn expensive, but other countries is not at all expensive. But we're getting KFC here, and I can assure you, Mr. Kamara, is not a good thing. As day follows night, a few years from now,
I don't want to go into
we are going
some
to
kind
get
of economic sabotage within
no,
within
it is not. Sorry, if I put it that way. No, what I meant something similar to that. Junk food meaning fried chicken and chips. That's what I tried to mean. Sorry, I
Fried
quoted
chicken
KFC.
and
There are
chips.
many of
Fast
them.
foods, kind of.
Fast
fast
food.
foods.
That's a better word.
I think what
what we should avoid.
what you're saying is true. That, all right, in the West, the affluent are able to afford, for example, equipment even at home. They can have in-house gyms and exercise adequately. They are very well educated. They are able to understand they
have the money to buy
the
good
good
food.
Good food, yeah.
the natural
Which is
foods,
natural
which are very expensive there.
Yeah.
Now, when we come here, we have two problems. One is, of course, that, as you said, junk food is cheap. For example, Rolex. Rolex is something that everybody can buy, but if we knew what we were eating in Rolex, chapati with oil, with an egg, all high cholesterol. And that's what our very low people are now eating. Today, we think that they may not develop heart disease because some of these people, that's the only meal they have. So they can burn it out. But you imagine the affluent man who stops in his car, buys a Rolex, but reaches home, he still has enough meat to eat and can afford to buy chips chicken for his children. So the amount of fat he's exposed to is quite high. But the affluent in Uganda, I must say, if you take a close look, are starting to shape themselves up. They are the guys who are jogging on the road. They are the guys who are in the gym. It's not very cheap to go to these gyms.
No, it isn't.
But people have paid for 1 year. They have a membership for 1 year at some of these big hotels, and they are swimming and they are going to the gyms. They are cautious. They are mindful of their lifestyle and hence their health, but at a cost. So whereas I agree with you that the affluent in the low-income countries like Uganda are indeed more obese, are the ones where we see more obesity, but I think it's changing. It's changing, and that's very good. And we're encouraging those who can afford, please. You know, eating meat does not should make you rich. It doesn't. And eating greens does not make you poor. Okay? You need to choose what is best for you. If you are a person who is prone to becoming obese, you had better go vegetarian and protect yourself. If you're a person who is very active, your nature of work is that probably you are digging every day, it's no problem if you eat Rolex, because you want to burn it out. So your lifestyle, okay, your diet is also dependent on your lifestyle.
Well, if you're digging every day, you can't afford meat anyway, so you'll be on your doorstep because, and then you really burn out. And no wonder sometimes you see somebody where we come from in a village, somebody is very skinny, even more skinny than me, but those fellows are very healthy and they're very strong.
Yeah.
Because, for example, in the cattle keeping community, a gentleman will be pouring water down from the source to feed more than 1,000 herds of cattle every day, but the man will look tiny like this. But that guy, I think, should be very healthy for the exercise that he does every day. Yeah. So now, what else do you need? Because you're able to save a life of this gentleman. I can imagine there are quite a number of people whom the cardiologists are looking on and they are listening to them, and perhaps you're even having meetings, you're about to take decisions to work on other Ugandans. The number must be overwhelming. Are you up to the job now in terms of if they decide, now they have seen what you can do, now they'll come, because
the
it
numbers
is possible here, they'll come. So what happens?
The numbers are already overwhelming.
Okay.
We already have very, very big numbers. That's cutting across, not just patients who need coronary artery bypass, but cutting across right from children to adults, those who have been born with heart defects, to those who have acquired conditions like atherosclerosis blocking their arteries, to those who have got valves which are defective because of rheumatic heart disease and many other ailments. As we talk right now, we are booking December 2018. We are that far.
So somebody wants to be worked on by next month, it's not possible?
It's possible, but we really have to do a lot of permutations. The regular bookings are already entering in some areas, as we're beyond halfway there, I must say. We are, in some sectors, we divide our operating days for given conditions. For some, we are clocking December 2018. The numbers are too big, but that is because of the capacity, the resources that are available. We have only one operating theater. We are operating with about 28 beds, of which 4 beds are intensive care beds. We have a cardiac catheterization laboratory where Dr. Lugero works, and a theater pumping into the same intensive care unit. So the critical care staff are overwhelmed, and we can't push them beyond a certain limit. So we need space.
So when you say you have 4 intensive care units,
beds,
or intensive care beds, if you are to admit the 5th or the 7th or 6th person, either these are people must get better, or maybe if God has called them, that's only when space can be available. Is that what you're saying?
No.
To some extent, yes. If I've got 4 patients, occupying the 4 beds and I can't take them out, they need intensive care, then you get a 5th, 6th patient. Where will they go? The answer is we'll have to find alternative ICU. But the key issue here is, Mr. Kamara, is that we've got 1 cardiac care center to a population of 40 million. Roughly 40 million. That's for Uganda. The recommended ratio should be probably a ratio of 1 cardiac center to 1 million. So we needed something like 40 cardiac centers in this country. And that is what, as a country, as a government, we should work towards achieving. We must have, at least in the next 5 years or so, at least 5 or 10 cardiac centers. That's how we shall sort out this mess, because we've got so many patients. What we're operating on is probably constitutes about 2% of the patient load we've got. That is not good.
Okay, so now do we have the capacity to become the regional center of excellence and be able to treat those with the heart complications? Maybe they come from Kenya, from Tanzania, from Burundi, from Rwanda, and we can do them in Uganda, because then that will be able to raise our resources and also buy more equipment and things like that.
I think, yes, we do have that capacity. We've got enough surgeons now and still have a number in training. We have a very large pool of trained cardiologists, both in the adult and pediatric. We are building our critical care team, and we have got also a team of what we call perfusion technologists. Those are the people who operate the heart-lung machine when we stop the heart and lung and are working on the inside of the heart. We have a team that operates a machine that takes over that function. Those are called perfusion technology. So we have all these in numbers coming up. Right now, as I speak, the numbers we have could be a little bit more than enough in terms of the cardiologists and the surgeons for the facility that is there, but too few for the number of patients. So the catch here is that we need space. We need space. And if we only had space, we can operate the entire East Africa, can come here. We have capacity.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking, maybe for beginning with Dr. Lugero, how many good cardiologists could we have lost as a result of resources and poor pay, and maybe even poor equipment, and they have decided to go to other places in the world, like Botswana, South Africa, and Europe. And also, I'll be opening the lines that you two, wherever you are, you can ask, call and ask, and give us your contribution, and tell us what you think. Here we have 3 doctors. It's rare to get a consultation of 3 doctors when they're here. So consultation without fee, perhaps, is a good thing tonight here on the spot. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot, and my name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Dr. Tom Mwambu, Dr. William Manyirida, and Dr. Charles Lugero. Okay, now, Charles, how many do you think I beg your pardon, cardiologists could we have lost as a result of poor pay, poor remuneration, and maybe lack of equipment and tools, and they've gone?
Of course, by any dimension, that is a difficult question in terms of quantifying. What is clear for a fact is that, of course, we do not have a systematic way that people live. But at least from where we've trained and what we hear and some of our colleagues that we send patients to, sometimes we have a number of these colleagues who are Ugandans. And of course, beginning from Dr. Agrechinji in Australia, you all know that he's a Ugandan cardiologist who is based in Australia. And so is so many in lots of countries all over the world. So I may not be able to quantify, but what I simply want to say is the number is quite significant.
And last month, not even last month, just a couple of weeks maybe now, maybe the medical fraternity recently laid down their tools to protest poor remuneration. And you have since held a dialogue, I don't know if you're part of them, with government, and resumed work after they promised to improve remuneration. Yet you have threatened to lay down your tools if this is not sanctioned this financial year. So how can we ensure that you continue to advocate for good pay, but ensure that lives are not lost as a result of strikes? And I'm not saying you took part, but you are part of the medical fraternity.
Yeah, I think it's a very sensitive area, but one of the reasons, actually, the main reason that the medical workers were going on strike for was the poor infrastructure and facilities under which they are expected to deliver a high-class service. I think that was number one. That was high on the agenda. And second on the agenda was the supplies, the drugs and sundries which they use, the day-to-day things. And the salary issue was really down there because the amount of stress that we are working under, if you look at the number of the doctor to patient ratio in this country, is still very high. And it's worse, especially in the public hospitals. And a good picture is if you were to assess the percentage establishment within some of the government hospitals, especially those in the local government. One study was done and they found establishments as low as 25%, whereas the hospitals under the central government were a little bit better. They range between 75 to almost 100%. Now, if you have an establishment in a hospital which is at 25%, that means that if you're expected to have a director, doctors, nurses, gatekeepers, watchmen, you may find that there is one doctor with 2 gatekeepers and maybe a few nurses. How do you deliver the service? You just can't. What those people will do is refer the patients. And those patients are going to be referred where the establishment is a little complete, the service can be offered. And so you find the hospitals under central government have been under a lot of stress. And these hospitals are being given a budget based on their bed capacities. So the little they are given that looks to be adequate becomes very little because they have an overload of patients even from the hospitals under local government. And so that's why we're advocating for more resources to the hospitals. We want more workers. Otherwise, if you can't get the more workers in, then pay the existing ones to do a little bit more. But it's, you know, you will pay them up to a certain limit because they will not work beyond certain stress. So the issue of salary mainly is fronted because of the amount of stress. But the key thing here was, can we improve the facilities? Can we improve what is available for us to use?
Okay, I've seen what you go through as medical workers in trying to save lives, and also I've seen some homegrown innovations, especially in the pediatrics ward. You see those incubators, when they're not working well, they put something to warm up the baby, or even what I saw at the theater when the autoclaving machines are not working. But at the end of the day, patients walk out alive. And I'm thinking, with poor pay, with poor remuneration, and lack of infrastructure, the Ugandan medical worker is more of a medical worker, is more of a miracle worker, because things happen. If you look at what you have, Dr. Manyirira, here, and compare to where you started from what they have, I think your colleagues, if they come here, they would say, how are you doing this?
Absolutely
Probably
right.
have more respect for you.
Absolutely. But Mr. Kamara, I can assure you, you can give us bags and bags of money, dollars. But if you cannot improve on the infrastructure, the working condition, there's no way I would want to touch a bleeding patient with bare hands. And that's a common scenario in most of our centers. Government is doing, of course, government is us anyway. We are doing our best. And I think we're on the way to sorting out these problems. Things will get better. It's taken long because we have so many overriding needs, but I think we're on the right course. Things will get better. So now, let me come back to the cardiac surgery, for example. I think that's my area of specialty. The good news is, when it comes to cardiac surgery, there's no much of cutting corners. It's not there. You must have a minimum basic requirement, and it's damn expensive. But the good thing is that the only one center in the country has actually achieved that. So, and remember, when we do work, especially open heart surgeries, we're monitored by other associations and professional societies all over the world. They know what is happening. That's a good thing. And Ugandans must feel comfortable with the service we offer. Because when I do something here, the Americans are aware something's happening. If the patient dies, I can assure you, a cardiac patient dying, our colleagues in America know. The society in South Africa knows. The Kenyans know. So we have these associations. So when it comes to cardiac care services, it's expensive because we have to keep the standard.
You don't have the tools.
No, you don't. That's a challenge with cardiac care service. It's damn expensive, and you must do the right thing.
Also the reputation.
You don't cut corners a lot. You don't. No shortcuts. That's a problem. In other areas, like you said, yes, we do it, but it's not good. For how long would you keep compromising standards? We do that, and we usually go scot-free from choose that word. Patients survive. And that's how good we are. So medical workers in this country, of course, like many other workers, are the unsung heroes of this country. I think we're heroes.
Okay, I'm going to open the lines so that Ugandans who are watching this broadcast right now, maybe they have a question or two, a comment to make, maybe somebody will say congratulations, or whatever experience or testimony that you have. We have the medical doctors here and from the Uganda Heart Institute, and they are experienced, they are skilled, and they can maybe answer some of the questions that you have. So this is the moment. The numbers on the screen, you can call and then tell us your name and where you are from, and please keep it very short and simple so that at least you can have a couple of people online to be answered. Let me take the very first call online. Hello? Hello? Okay. Like my producer is trying to sort those lines. Have you had any dialogue with the leadership of this country to address the underfunding challenges now, especially at the Heart Institute?
Yes, we've had a number of opportunities to have dialogue. Our executive director.
Okay, let's keep on that, and then I take this call so that we. Hello. Hello, I have a call line. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Kampala. My name is Stephen Bukoma.
Yes, Stephen.
Thank you so much for the program.
You're welcome.
Yes, my concern is about the health sector in this country. And I'm wondering, to East African countries like Rwanda, you can't access any medication before the doctor checks you. And that's having insurance for the nationals. In Uganda, people don't have insurance. So how can you guarantee me as a patient that you're...
Oh, no. I think we somehow lost Stephen online.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I hold on?
Okay, please go on.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Hello?
Yes, do not listen to the echo. Tell us your name and keep telling.
I'll put it off. I'll put it off.
All right, thank you very much.
My name is Ernest Oloya. I'm 70 years old.
Okay, Ernest.
5 years ago, I was in Mulago at the ICU.
Okay.
And Dr. Mwambu, Dr. Nyakaire, I don't know, I forget his name, and Dr. Okelo worked on me. And today I must testify, even if by that time they didn't have the equipment, but they did the best. Wow. They were able to pass a tube through my thigh, the inner thigh up to my heart, and were able to tell me what was wrong. Wow. And they decided that my condition was not so appalling, and they put me on medication, which I'm on up to now, and I am feeling perfect. Wow. The only thing which is on my side is that I've not changed my lifestyle very much. So I really congratulate these doctors. We should give them all the support they need. Thank you very much.
You said your name again is Oloya, right?
And Ernest Oloya.
Ernest Oloya, and you are 70 years?
Yes, 70 years.
And 5 years ago, they had to pass through a wire through your thigh up to your heart?
Yeah, they could see what was wrong, and they made a good decision, which is making me live very healthy.
And now you feel like you have energy of a 25-year-old.
Pardon?
Dr. Lawyer, I was making a joke that you feel like you're like a 25-year-old.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. What an encouraging testimony.
Congratulate them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawyer. What an encouraging testimony of a 70-year-old who has gone through your hands, your gifted hands, and he feels strong enough. He's 70, and that happened 5 years ago, and he still feels healthy. And, a good story there from Mr. Mzee Oloya. Let me take another call online, one or two, and then we will have the medical doctors here respond. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Goret from NTV.
Yes, Goret. You're on air, Goret.
Yeah, so my question is...
Yes.
To the doctors.
Yes.
I have a daughter who is now 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud to have gone through.
You are listening.
I brought my daughter to the Heart Institute. That was in 2014. She was catheterized with a hole on the heart. But unfortunately, after the catheterization, she was found out that she couldn't withstand the operation because she had severe PHT.
Do not listen to yourself. Keep talking one coherent sentence and finish. Otherwise, it will confuse you because you are listening to the echo. We are hearing you perfect. If you hear any echo, ignore it. Continue talking.
Okay. She had severe PHT. That was in 2014. And unfortunately, they couldn't work on her for the open heart surgery. So I'm like inquiring, since they have got up new research has come up, is it possible that now they can work on her?
Thank you very much. Goret in Tebe, and I think your question was very precise. So you have a case And then you have actually even learned some of these terminologies that really shows that you have been at the Heart Institute, the PhD and all this kind of thing. So something comes with experience because you have had a problem, so you had to learn. Let me take maybe 2 more, and then the doctors will respond to you. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello, Patrick. This is Stephen calling from Kampala.
Stephen Kampala.
Yes. My concern is when you go to Rwanda, the nationals have insurance for health insurance. And this is where my concern comes. In Uganda, we don't have insurance for the citizens. So how can I really trust the doctors, even if they are doing a very good job? As a national, how will I be convinced to give my patient to the doctors in Mulago? Do they provide any guarantee for someone's health? Because they have seen some people die.
The insurance is not going to be given to you by the medical doctors. They think the insurance is a governance issue, is a leadership issue at a political level. That's my understanding. But for them, they have the skills. If they are given the equipment, they'll work on you. They can even work on you better than some of the people around the region. But the issues of money is, I think, or insurance is, I think, a governance or leadership, a government issue.
Yeah, and that's the question. My question was, can't the doctors implement this, share with the government so they can invest more in the health sector?
Okay, you want to pick your brain on the issue of insurance and how it can work in Uganda, just like it is working in Rwanda. Thank you very much, Stephen. Let me take maybe the last 2 callers online. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Dennis from NTV.
Dennis in NTV, you're on air, sir.
I would like to congratulate the gentlemen and the doctors over there.
Thank you.
They are doing a very great job.
Okay.
My prayer is that I pray the government should give them enough support so that we can stop all this rush that we are going to India, to South Africa, for some of the minor things that could have been done here at affordable price.
Thank you very much.
And secondly, I would like to know, for the people who go to gym, people who lift weight and don't do running and maybe jogging, is there maybe any complication they can get from lifting weight in the gym or something like that? I just need to shine a light on that.
Thank you, Dennis in Entebbe. Let me take the last call online, and then when the medical doctors respond, they will be making their concluding remarks on the show tonight. And they will also respond to you, Goret in Entebbe. I have another caller online. Hello. Hello? Okay. A bit of a complication there, but I think if Dr. Mambo, if you could just respond to maybe Goret and the others.
Thank you very much, viewers, for your questions, and thank you for appreciating the service that we are providing at the Uganda Heart Institute. I'll start with Dennis, who has asked about whether there's any complication on weightlifting. Yes, you could get some complications. Usually when you go to the gym, especially if you're doing weightlifting, we advise that you take on your stress that is on the weight, because the weight stresses you. You take on these weights gradually as you build your muscles. Your muscles on the back work with other muscles in your legs or lower limbs to balance you up, to support your spine, and therefore make you strong enough to carry a weight. If you carry a weight beyond what your body can support, you are likely to what we get a disc prolapse. You could injure your spine. And so we really recommend that you take on these weights gradually. To Goretti, I think I'll leave the question for Goretti. William will answer that one on the PhD. You can answer that one.
But and just a little one on the weightlifting. You say that is a static exercise. It's more of static. It's not dynamic. But these exercises are dynamic. They exercise and develop all your body structures, the muscles I'm talking about. That is very important. Two, many times we've had muscle tears in the gym. That's why Dr. Mambi is saying you have to do it gradually. And then 3, you must do a medical checkup before you start lifting weights.
Yes, yeah.
The people who have got heart problems, have got vessel problems, vessels that are weak and dilated, we call them aneurysms. In the process of lifting these weights, your blood pressure can actually shoot through the roof and that vessel will burst. So it's very important that you check. So the Goret was asking about a PHT.
Yes.
PHT is a pulmonary hypertension. That means high blood pressure within the lungs. The lungs has got blood vessels and air sacs. So children, especially who have got holes in the heart, they have got an excessive flow of blood from the right side of the heart through the lungs. And over a period of time, because of this too much blood pressure, you get changes within the blood vessels. They tend to sort of harden. And then the blood pressure in the heart goes up. And that's not good for the lungs, and it's not good for the heart. The heart will start pumping against this resistance. We call it the afterload.
Okay.
So, and eventually it fails. So Goret needs to come back to the Uganda Heart Institute. I think that's the best answer I can give her for us to reassess the child.
Okay.
Whether the child is operable or not.
Dr. Lugero, anything
Yes.
you want
Yeah.
to?
Dr. Lugero.
Probably just a small mention about
Oloya.
Mzee Oloya. It is so nice that he really appreciates what we did.
You remember him, or you
Yes.
have worked on many people who can't remember?
But of course, I simply want to encourage him to comply with the lifestyle changes.
He says he has not changed the
He
lifestyle.
has not changed. And frankly speaking, it is something that is very challenging. We talk about exercising. It is not as easy as we say it. You know, people try to exercise for 1 or 2 days, then you ask them, that thing I've given up a bit. So it is something that, you know, one needs to keep encouraged about doing it, get motivated, and get disciplined. So Mzee Oroya, I just want to encourage you to pick up yourself and do some lifestyle changes.
Okay.
So Stephen has an insurance.
Yes, Stephen Insurance.
Yes, Stephen, you asked a very, very pertinent question on medical insurance. Globally now, it is actually, the studies have shown that for us to be able to combat non-communicable diseases, and in particular heart disease, you need to have a medical insurance, because the services we give, the kind of care that we give is very expensive. And if you're going to be able to access this service in totality, then probably the only way is through a medical insurance. So countries that have fronted medical insurances for their populations are actually moving on faster in fighting non-communicable diseases. And I think for Uganda, we really need to move that way. I know the Ministry of Health has been working at it, but we are not yet there. And whereas there are some insurance companies around, it's just a few companies that have got their staff insured. Even then, from what we see, from we who are in the field, from what we see, many of these insurance companies are not even able to pay up all the bills to cater for the services that these patients would require. And many times, the patient has to dip their hand into their own pockets, much as they're already paying insurance premiums to be catered for. So we need to move that way. Rwanda made a very good strategy in that it got part of its global fund, and it advanced the reason that our population is too poor to be able to access drugs for TB, malaria, and HIV. And it began from there and managed to get this fund to work to avail services for all, because even patients who have HIV suffer heart disease. Patients who have got malaria, or patients who have heart disease can also have malaria. So in that kind of mix, you are able to allocate resources
make a case
and
for the
make
fund,
a case for each one.
For the fund, yeah.
Now, to back that up, you need to have a very good accountability system. So if you cannot account for the resources that have been put into the medical insurance scheme, then you could as well not have the scheme.
There comes the problem. The elephant in the room is accountability now.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt a bit?
Yes, sir.
I think it's foolhardy of us as Ugandans to think that, sort of sound rude, to think that you can get the best care, especially for non-communicable diseases such as heart diseases, by paying for this treatment out of pocket. Even the Americans, who are richer than us many times, they cannot afford to do that. It's only the national health insurance that are helping them. In South Africa, people just walk into the hospital, including the poorest. And that is how they're able to afford the best service. Let's stop thinking that we are rich because you've gotten some money that you can go to the hospital and pay for that treatment. Can assure you the real good treatment, even the richest in Uganda will not afford.
The Kenyans
they
today,
will not afford. So
I
we
think
need health insurance. It's long overdue.
Yeah.
Okay.
We must work on that.
Last year in May,
well managed.
in May, Kenya started a new, it rolled out its national health insurance to a higher level, where it is now paying for heart surgeries, even in the private hospitals. There are about 4 hospitals in Nairobi now, which are able to do heart surgeries, and the patients are being paid for by the government. Before that, the surgeries, we were doing almost more surgeries than Kenya. But now the national health insurance has come in and is paying.
Okay.
And their surgeries are taking up.
Doctors, our time is out. Let me begin with you, Dr. Lugero. Give us your concluding remark on the show.
So my concluding remarks and message is that this issue of heart disease has come and has invaded us. It is no longer something that we used to think about existing in those high-income countries. It is now with us in this country. So one, it is important to recognize that there are risk factors and we can fight them, including high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, exercise, and being able to eat health foods. So with those, you are able to go a little distance in terms of preventing these conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Mwambu, your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting us. My appeal is still to the public, and that means the greater public, to really support us. We are grateful for organizations like Wangsung Industries, which have believed in our works and continue to support and really provide us with the financial and material support to perform these operations. We are thankful to the Rotary clubs in Kampala, which also have come out and have seen our work and believe that we can do something. And we are calling upon many others to really support the poor Ugandans out there to be able to access the service.
Dr. William?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kamara. I'm appealing to all Ugandans, and you, Mr. Kamara, that we've crossed the Rubicon now at Uganda Heart Institute. We've been doing lots of complex open heart surgeries for children with holes in the heart. We moved on to the valves. We're able to do single valve to start with. We've been able to do 3 valves at a go in one patient. The human being has got 4 valves. We've been able to do 3 valves in one patient. That is the pinnacle of valve surgery in the whole world. So that is the level where we've reached. We've now gone on to do the coronary bypass surgery. What more do we need? We've got human resource, well trained. We've got critical care specialists that have trained in the best centers in Canada, in India, in the UK, in Italy. What more do we need? We just need to be supported with
Thank
the
you.
infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Dr. William. Thank you very much, Dr. Lugero, and thank you very much, Dr. Mwambu, and all of you who have been a part of this. You have listened to these gentlemen. I've called them the gentlemen with gifted hands because they have something to show for it. They have helped Ugandans. They have showcased their skills by extending the life of a Ugandan who can go to Heart Institute hurting, but he comes out smiling. And we even had a testimony from a Museo lawyer who's 70 years, was worked upon maybe 5 years ago, and he thinks he's feeling himself now very energetic. Give them the resources, give them the support, and believe in them because they're as equipped, as ready, and as experts as you can find them anywhere else in the world, right here at Milago. Good night, and God bless Uganda.